Hello Kaiju fans, welcome back to the Kaiju World Order. My name is MM, and this is Monster of the Week, where I'm just going to be talking and rambling on about a monster that was voted on by members of the Kaiju Hugbox Discord server. You can join that server by just following the links on the channel, and yeah, let's get right on into it. This week's monster is none other than Terochilus from episodes 16 and 17 of Return of Ultraman. Now, before I get too deep into Terochilus here, when you hear the title Return of Ultraman, if you're not too familiar with the franchise, Return of Ultraman actually is not the Return of Ultraman. Ultraman and the Ultraman in Return of Ultraman are actually two different characters. One is specifically just Ultraman, and the other one has come to be known as Ultraman Jack. So Terochilus is actually fighting Ultraman Jack in this, not the original Red and Silver Zero. So, as I said, Terochilus appears in episodes 16 and 17 of Return of Ultraman. This is a giant prehistoric bird, not unlike that of Toho's Rodan. It even comes from a volcanic environment, which starts to sound very familiar when talking about giant prehistoric kaiju birds. So while Terochilus is actually running amok, there is a side plot going on involving a stalker and his attempts at trying to kill the girl that has rejected him. It is a very cringy plot, but unfortunately it does get tied into Terochilus pretty directly, so it's gonna end up having to get brought up later. So Terochilus ends up destroying the yacht that he was trying to blow up, leaving very few witnesses, including the girl that he was trying to kill. Matt had to get involved, and upon further inspection, realized that they were dealing with a giant monster after a jet plane was destroyed by the thing. Terochilus eventually makes its way into Tokyo at night and sprays webbing until it appears to have made a giant nest. Strangely, the bird ends up flying away, leaving Matt to continue to try to figure out what exactly is going on with this thing. It is discovered that the webbing actually produces a highly toxic gas when mixed with the emissions from vehicles. So a lot of travel within the city is instantly put on hold. However, the girl is blinded when exposed to the gas, and her stalker comes back once more to try and get her. At this point, Matt had tracked Terochilus back to an island volcano and decided to attack it. They managed to catch its attention for a little bit until Go was able to transform into Ultraman and fight the thing. Terochilus was not a pushover and was able to actually hold its own against the Ultra until the fight took to the air. Once it did, Jack tried using his Specium Ray several times, but nothing seemed to actually hurt it, and then it fired back with some little energy shots of its own and sent the hero falling into the water. Now unimpeded, Terochilus began just flying around, and at the same time, the stalker grabbed the girl and took her into the heart of the web-covered nest. While Matt tried to get them to exit, Terochilus made its big return and came back into the city. Now deciding to use its nest, the monster decided that this whole city was now its territory. Once again, Matt was on the offensive, trying to get Terochilus to leave the city, until Ultraman Jack once again stepped in. Knowing he was unable to actually fight the monster in hand-to-hand, and his own beam weapons weren't really cutting it this time, Ultraman decided to actually lure the monster away. He took to the air with Terochilus following him, and the two engaged in an aerial dogfight. However, as the speeds hit supersonic speeds, Jack turned around and ended up colliding with Terochilus and spun him around and virtually slammed him into the ground. At these high speeds, Terochilus was instantly killed, and that was it. The day was saved. The girl was rescued, and in the process of saving her, the stalker also ended up getting killed. So, happy days for everybody. So, Terochilus is one of those Ultraman monsters that a lot of fans know, but it has never actually made a big return. Birdon, introduced in Ultraman Taro, the series that followed a couple years later. Birdon kind of does everything Terochilus does, but better. Doesn't do the whole weird webbing thing, but volcano bird monster that's able to shrug off ultra attacks. Birdon also does that, so it kind of rendered Terochilus moot, especially when you just compare their designs. Birdon looks cooler, I don't care what anybody says. I'm maybe a little bit biased, he is my second favorite Ultra Kaiju. So while Terochilus has not appeared again in a show or movie, he does make a very brief appearance in the Marvel Comics Ultraman crossover, along with LA Tortoise, which I believe that's the other one that's with it. And that's it. So no Terochilus in Mebius, no Terochilus in Ultra Galaxy, we haven't seen him in New Gen, and it's kind of surprising. Terochilus is one of those Ultraman monsters that fans of the show really know, but hasn't been brought back. Kind of like King Source III from Return of Ultraman also. It seems like a monster that'd be very easy to bring back and just do an episode or two for. But again, with Birdon also being a thing and having a modern day suit, that also might be a big reason why Terochilus has never come back. Now, when it comes to thinking about Terochilus and how it would engage in other monsters in other universes, I don't think it's going to be that powerful. This is actually getting kind of redundant to say when I'm talking about Ultraman Kaiju, but I've always had the belief that they're a little bit lesser kaiju compared to the Toho and Gamera ones. So Terochilus, the webs they're not something it's going to use in battle. He never once breaks them out against Ultraman, so there's really no reason to think he would against anything else. The webs are specifically for creating a nest, and the only real plus side of having this nest around would be it making toxic gas from exhaust fumes. But if you turn all the vehicles off, and after a little bit, there won't be any more toxic gas, and then Terochilus is probably going to leave. So this nest, the web spray, it's not going to do really anything to help it survive. He does have those little energy blast things that appear to shoot from the nostrils of its beak. I'm not sure if this was supposed to be a quick web shot or an actual energy shot, but he does fire them directly into Ultraman's eyes in the airs, and that is a pretty damn good shot. However, again, there's no explosion, we don't see any actual damage, they just kind of fizzle into Ultraman's eyes. How they would do against Godzilla or Gamera or even a Kamacuras, who knows. But what really kind of hits the nail on the head for Terochilus here for me is the way Ultraman defeats it. We do know Terochilus was able to withstand the Specium Ray, actually twice, but Ultraman Jack was able to defeat it by just colliding with it in midair and throwing it into the ground. That's not something that normally would kill a kaiju. For example, Ghidorah the three-headed monster, Rodan and Ghidorah crash together in mid-air, and then Ghidorah falls back first into a large pointed rock and then ends up standing right back up. Terochilus and Ultraman collide, and Terochilus just falls into the streets and it's dead. So, yeah, right there, Rodan's better than it, Ghidorah's better than it, and then by extension, pretty much everything from the Toho Pantheon is better than Terochilus, if only because of how it got defeated right there. I have no doubt that someone like Godzilla and Ghidorah and Rodan would also be able to shrug off the Specium Ray the same way Terochilus does. And then when it comes to merchandise, unfortunately, there's not a lot. I do know there's an X Plus, and there's also like an X Plus smaller vinyl figure that goes for about, I believe, $100 or so. I'm actually waiting for a Spark Doll Ultra 500 figure. I'd rather have one of those. And with Birdon also having one of those figures and a couple other bird kaiju like Basara, I would love to add Terochilus to that little lineup of bird monsters on my shelf. And really, until then, there's not much else I can really say or talk about here with Terochilus. It's unique. It's not really a unique monster. It's a poor man's Rodan, but its episodes are actually pretty fun. The subplot with the stalker and the girl, it's unique. We don't get that type of plot line very often with kaiju thrown in. So if you're looking for something new, fresh, compared to like what you normally get with kaiju at the time, Return of Ultraman, the Terochilus 2-parter, might be a good way to pass some time. And until next time, kaiju fans, peace out, and Minya, take it away.
Says you should like and subscribe.